Okay. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Sorry we're starting a little late. Welcome to the January 27, 2025 meeting of the we will follow the agenda. We noted and
Where'd you see it from about? YouTube? No.
yeah.
Where's the YouTube connection?
This is you right here.
So mute this, please. No, mute it.
Yeah, I know. I just couldn't see. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're still having a few problems, but I think we are set now. So welcome to anyone who's watching on YouTube. Welcome to everybody here. I would like to remind everyone that only members of the Go team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public that are present or on YouTube are here to observe and comment during one of our two public comment periods. The Go team meeting is called to order at 4:06, and we'll start with the roll call. Our secretary Eric is absent today, but Tamara Jones has agreed to take the minutes. So Tamara, I'll turn over the roll call to you, please.
Okay, Dr. Bachman.
Here.
Eric is absent. Jennifer Keenan.
Here.
Audrey Reese.
Here.
Trinae, if I mangle your name, I'm so sorry. Trinae Uzoka, is that right?
Uzoka, yes, here.
Uzoka. I think Roderick Hill.
Here.
Lisa Boyd.
Yeah, here.
And
I got it.
Ms. Montgomery.
Yes.
And Mr. Vera.
Here.
Eden is absent and Neelam Parsons.
Yep, here.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Great. Okay. The first item is our action item, which is the approval of the agenda. And we actually have a few amendments to the agenda that was sent to you earlier and noticed on the Go Team website. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to 1, remove the update on District Athletic Task Force. That will be at a future meeting. 2, add the first 10 minutes of public comment period after the approval of the agenda, which is pursuant to the norms that the team adopted at the beginning of the school year. And 3, add the CAT report to the information items. Do I have a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay. All those in favor of modifying the agenda pursuant to the motion, please raise your hand with a show of hands. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries on a unanimous show of hands. Okay, so now that our agenda has been approved, we'll go to our first public comment period, which is a 10-minute public comment period, and public comment is limited to 2 minutes. So is there anyone online that would like to participate in this first public comment period? It'll take a second for us to see if we have anyone. There's no one. Oh, okay. Okay, so we will move on to the next item, which is approval of the previous minutes. I sent everybody a link to the minutes from our November meeting. Are there any corrections that anyone noticed from the November minutes? No? Okay. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Audrey Reese. I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Ms. Boyd? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we'll now move to our discussion items. The first item is the review of the budget development process. Over the next few meetings, we're going to be focusing on creating a budget for the next school year that aligns with our strategic plan and addresses our strategic priorities. We need to have a draft budget completed prior to the principal staffing conference, sometime between February 26th and March 1st. We will then need to have a meeting after the staffing conference and before Friday, March 15th for the final budget approval. Dr. Bachman, has the school staffing conference been scheduled?
Late February,
Late
I think
February.
the 27th.
Okay, so we have meetings scheduled for January 27th, February 10th, and March 10th. So our timeline falls within the necessary dates
I'm sorry,
for the approval.
I think you have an old script. You actually need to have your feedback meeting sometime between February 10th and February 14th.
So if we have one on the 10th, that's not,
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled for February
That's
10th,
right, yeah,
so that's sufficient.
that's fine for the feedback meeting, right?
Okay, so yeah, so we have meetings scheduled for January 27th, February 10th, and March 10th. Okay, so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Bachman for the, or whoever's presenting on the budget allocation presentation.
okay. Ms. Capelli and I will work on this together. Our budget's different this year. I just want to say there's some differences in how we're allotted money and funds. And so as you know, we're in a lean year, very lean year. And so that impacts the schools as well. So we'll go through this and I'll explain one major change, which is in the signature programming funding, but we'll go through that when we get to that. Okay. Jennifer, if you want to lead us to this, fine.
So one of the things that the presentation is reminding us is making sure that the discussion is aligned to the school strategic plan. So when you're looking at budget items, definitely doing it in a lens from the school strategic plan. And I'll give everyone a second to read the principal's role as well as the GO team's role in the budget development process. Does anyone need more time? So I did link the school strategic plan in here just so that if we need to easy access to get to it. This photo is a link so we can get there pretty quickly. And then a reminder of the strategic rankings from last meeting as well. So now we can jump into our budget for next year. So this first sheet gives an overview of the change from fiscal year 25, which we're in right now, moving to fiscal year 2026. So you can see the one farthest over to the left-hand side. Sorry, I'm looking at my own computer since I'm blind. So one farthest over to the left-hand side is fiscal year 2026. So the total earned that we have for next school year is $20,047,556. That's a per pupil cost of $11,800. And then looking at the difference between the 2 years, we've earned just about $2 million more from last year, but also remembering that things cost more next year as we're looking at these numbers. Also, you can see that there's a deficit of 12 students. Right now, our projections for this school year were 1711, whereas the projection for next school year is 1699. So that's the number that they're using in order to calculate the cost that has been provided to the school at this time.
And Ms.
Can we ask
Capelli, what is
questions?
the current enrollment?
Sure.
The current enrollment is actually 1699, so
Oh.
we're right on, which was interesting. But yeah, so it's pretty much in line with how many kiddos we have right now.
So they're saying we're expecting 1699.
for next school year. Yeah.
So did you prepare that projection or did someone
No,
else
the
tell you?
district.
Oh, district, yes, everybody projections.
You could not. It seems unrealistic based on the history that there's always ends up being more kids than you expect or that the enrollment's been going up every year. Is that, like, what's your take on that?
that's what they come up with looking at trends, history. You know, part of the real challenge here is that they make the decisions on leveling way too early.
Mhm.
So if you remember in the fall, September, we talked about at that time, at the 10th day count, we had about 1650 or 1645,
Mhm.
but it goes up
Yeah, and now you picked up
through
54.
October.
Yeah.
So there's, there's not a lot of,
Not anything you can do about that. Okay, all right.
But then also knowing that they have holdback funding, so if we do end up getting more students by leveling, there's a process for that. To give back more money if there's more kids in the school than that projection. All right, so this is the SSF allocation. So this gives a little bit more detail. You'll notice, we're looking big picture, not like individual positions or names, but more holistically by grade level. The same setup all the way over to the left is fiscal year 26. That middle column is our current school year, and then all the way over to the right, you can see the change in allocations from one year to the next. So they're projecting a loss of 12 students. The weight is a little bit larger per student, which is basically how we get that extra funding, even though we're losing students. And then you can see how we have done some preliminary projections, but right now we have not balanced to zero, knowing, looking at this, we're not currently balanced to zero. So we do still definitely need to make some decisions as to how to balance our budget to zero. Because with these numbers right here, we're about negative $45,000 that we need to accommodate. So I'll give you guys a chance to take a look at those line items.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
What is EIP/REP?
So EIP is the elementary side, so we have REP. So REP serves students in a reduced class size model. If you're performing at the bottom 20% in reading or math, you're put in a class, either a reading class or algebra support class. It could look different for different students, but the number of students that we have coded in those courses gives that REP funding to the school.
Dr. Bachman and anybody else in the staff, can you guys give us some of your highlights? Like what jumped out at you about the situation now?
The lack of money for REP is a problem. You can see that going down from 61 to 23 teachers, that's not accurate. So right now, I guess, Ms. Capelli, we have in total in reading, and we looked at the numbers today. Yeah. More than that, I don't know why it's 23 for next year. So that's a problem area right there.
That's essentially cutting third.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like that REP number of 55,000 doesn't cover the cost of a single
A teacher.
One teacher's cost is about 131,000. When you look at benefits and things like that, that's not what they're getting. But the district budget's based on averages, not individual people.
Mm-hmm.
So each teacher costs $131,000. So when you look at that REP number, we don't have enough to even purchase one REP teacher next year.
And yet we have
Different.
at least 6 sections of REP. So,
Has there been any explanation of why that is the case this year?
what, going down for next year?
Yeah.
No. It may be a coding thing. We'll be more careful about that, but that's a big hit, and that's, I'm working with Mr. Benson on it. Did we code the kids right? Is there something missing there? So we're working on that to see if there's a mistake there.
What about incoming performance? We went from 90,000 to 0.
So that is kids that are coming in 9th grade. So looking at, it really looks at their 7th grade scores, how they did in
Gotcha.
7th, because we won't have, And so you get per pupil for underperformance, kids that might need more support. So that's the money there.
So even though there's still, it's almost the same number from 333 to 290 in terms of those students, right?
Which one?
The incoming performance. Right, 290 students coming for next year versus 334 for this year. And there's no allocation.
So they're saying that there's no allocation for that. Is the justification there is because the base rate is going up? And is it really the case that we are, so incoming performance is kids who, may have been significantly below grade level when they enter into ninth grade. So they're saying that we're going to have fewer of those. And that's based on something.
Seventh grade.
Separate data.
So okay.
So that's a hit right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we also, we have $1.3 million less than we had last year. So one of the things that's different about this budget is, or the way they're doing it this year, is with signature programs. So you all know our program is STEAM. And so I'm just going to read what they.
You want me to go back?
Okay.
Yeah, and then I can go back.
Okay. So let me read how it's different this year. So before, STEAM money or signature theme money, be it IB or STEAM, was put into the budget. So a big chunk of money put into the budget for us to use for STEAM, for teachers, for materials, professional development, that kind of thing. Well, that has not been put in the budget. So the district is piloting a zero-based budgeting process for this program, that's signature program. Zero-based budgeting is a budgeting process that allocates funding based on program efficiency and necessity rather than budget history. As opposed to traditional budgeting, no item is automatically included in the budget. So this is what they wanted us to do this year, was to actually build a separate budget for signature theme costs. So signature program costs, a separate budget. And then this Friday, we submit this and the district will decide how much of that request that we get, if any, or that is a mystery right now. And so, but we do have to submit, this is what we're going to submit Friday as to what we need to support our STEAM program. So I'll let you look at that.
So Dr. Bachman, on the first item, signature band teacher, is the band teacher accounted for
requested.
somewhere
That's
else?
We didn't fill that. Those are just examples that they gave, but you can see we didn't.
See the column right here?
No, but
So
I guess
we
what I'm
haven't-
asking is, we have a band teacher.
So it's not.
But it's not coming out of signature.
Okay, that was my question. Gotcha.
The
Thank you.
ones with the one is what's being
Yeah.
requested.
I just wanted to confirm that this, with the zero next to band teacher, I just wanted to confirm that did not mean that we won't have a band teacher. It just means the band teacher is
already have
coming from a different set of money. Okay, thank you.
But also with this, we moved teachers over here to be able to continue to have the same number of teachers that we have now.
Yeah.
But if that's not approved, that's 3 teachers that we don't have funding for in our general budget right now.
And when will you hear if this is approved? You said it was just submitted, or?
We submit it this Friday, and we're supposed to hear by next Friday. And then we'll be able to decide really the budget based on what is funded. we're gonna have to make some decisions anyway,
So-
about.
So yeah, you said that Midtown, the budget for next year is 1.3 million less. So even if all of this is funded, it would still be $700,000 less, correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
Is there a cap on what you can ask for here?
No, they did not say that. But that is more than what we were given last year in the signature bucket. But we, as Jennifer said, we had to move some teachers from the general budget to this to hope, because again, we're over budget, we're in the red on paper. And so we had to take some things off of the general budget to try to get it to zero. We're still not at zero, even with this. We're not at,
But it's,
zero.
it's a $45,000 difference, not 1.3.
Say it again.
It's a $45,000 to get to zero, not 1.3 to get to zero.
Well, it's $45,000 on the general budget plus all of this.
Okay,
So this right here, we have a total, when you add it up, it is, that's on a different page. It's just about 600,000 if you add this up, plus 45, so we could be negative close to 700,000 if we don't get approved for this amount of money.
okay.
What did we have to cut, if you're able to tell us, to get to that 45 over? And
We
does
didn't-
any of it give you?
Well, we moved all this, see, we moved,
Everything, okay, got it.
yeah,
But we have a guidance here.
And
Right.
just a quick reminder for the go-to is Dr. Bachman said that they're doing zero-based budgeting on these signature fund programs. So today is more about how the allocation came across, because how spending is being done, including possible cuts, is still greatly in flux. So I would encourage you all to focus on how the money's been allocated and give Dr. Bachman your insights, your views, your thoughts as she's trying to build that budget.
So we can go back to the allocation slide. And I can do it more visual just so that you can see, but we can kind of go back and forth so you can see those numbers.
Do you have the summary tab, screenshots of the summary tab?
This one.
No, the actual summary, no. The one that shows earned, funded, and staffed.
No.
If you can pull that up to show them, that'd be great.
I think that one has personnel, that one has personnel. So here, while I'm doing that, let me go to this right here.
So instruction covers everything, from the class materials to like the teacher's pay to like,
Yeah, the majority of instruction is paying teachers.
gotcha.
Do we have this for this current fiscal year? This pie chart? I mean, what, is it pretty much in line? I mean, how does it compare to this year?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty, the percentage wise, it would be pretty much in line, yeah. Just the numbers are different. Are you talking about this right here?
Yeah.
questions, suggestions, thoughts that I can write down and
To show the funded, the earned funded staff and business.
My only thought is that if no matter what, it's gonna be pretty hard to cut however much money we need, because so much of the percentage wise teachers pay. And I mean, you can't really take away that money from the teachers. I don't really, everything looks really, really bare bones. I don't know, that this is obviously not without a lot of knowledge, but I don't know how much flex room there is looking at this.
Right. You can make, I can make choices to abolish positions or not fill positions. If somebody leaves, not fill positions, that kind of thing. But you're right, and just in the probably 4 years, and Tamara, you can probably even speak to this, but the cost per teacher, and I'm not getting onto teachers, it's not your fault, Lucy. But in just a few years, it's gone from, 98,000 to 131,000. That's a lot, that's benefits, and you don't take home 131,000, but that's just everything that you have to pay, and that's, it's the cost of doing
What
business.
about those teachers who do take home more than that?
That's the average.
That's the average.
Yeah, they
So
did
they
that,
just give you the
right.
average.
They did say at the budget commission meeting that, yes, while there's an overall increase in the budget, that some schools see, not ours, but a lot of schools are seeing a little bit more money. The vast majority of that is the increase in the teacher salaries. Yeah. So it's not like you're getting to buy extra spots or positions.
To get it that way, then I think the most efficient way to save money is gonna inevitably go down to what positions are essential, which are not. Because for other programs, we might be able to cut $5,000, $10,000. We're able to not fill a position, we're able to get by without it saving $138,000. So I think that's, in my opinion, what it's gonna have to boil down to.
They also acknowledged in that discussion that schools like ours that have a very large portion of our budget devoted to staff are going to have the hardest time with this year's budget.
Yeah,
We definitely took one of the biggest hits in the system, for sure. Midtown did, very, very large. High schools did, took a big hit, but ours is quite large. So, we can look at, we'll look at programs and things like that, things we're spending money on now that we can do without, or we'll make some adjustments.
So what's our process for things that we didn't get allocated? What's our process for challenging that, or?
So if we don't get the signature theme,
Well,
the
and
signature,
also like some of those other things we talked about with REP and some of those kinds of things. if we
Well,
didn't
I can-
get funding.
I can, yes, I can petition or whatever
Okay.
to see, like, presenting data. Remember, we also have to hold back money. Jennifer, doing it, is it what the holdback, every year we have to hold back this money because of leveling. If we need to give back money, that's where the money comes from. So just going to see what, that's part of this too, the holdback.
It's not non-staffing.
It's usually,
So the holdback is 280,000. That's the reserve.
so that's part of the 1.3 million.
Ms. Capelli, can you please go back to that slide that had the REP number? So I just want to make sure I understand it. So Dr. Bachman, you are going to look at this again to see if the REP number was somehow determined incorrectly. So that's a possible area where you may be able to correct an error. If that number is determined to be an error, and you can petition to correct that number.
You can see, even if I got it up to what it is now, that's not a lot of money. That would only be 60,000 more.
Are there any other errors potential errors that you see here?
But incoming performance seems like an error.
Well, here again, at the budget commission, they really messed with those weights. So everything you're seeing here underneath where it says 12th grade, right? where poverty, concentration, all that stuff were weights that have normally been used in this SSF. And so they really shifted that around. They've
Right.
shifted more into the base weight and then eliminated some of these other ones. So you can see the thing with the concentration of poverty, they eliminated that.
So pretty conceivably, there's no way for us to get more money when we have what we have.
More students.
That's it.
That's the only way. Mhm. Yeah, because the per pupil, that's how you get.
See the allocation numbers by bucket.
It's hard to comment on, like, not knowing what this looks like and what the delta is, if any, you know, and because budgeting differently than it was the last go around.
Yeah. I mean, this column right here shows overall the difference. You know, so you can see like ninth grade has a, you know, difference of negative 54 students. 10th grade has a difference of negative 43 students, whereas we have more 11th and 12th graders that will show you some of those numbers.
All right, so there's more to come. What do you mean? Like you're gonna explain further about that?
Oh, no, I'm just saying like this side right here is the difference between our current year and next year's budget. That gives you the information.
So I feel like I might be reading Audrey's mind, but we'll see. So if you look at the ninth grade number, for this year, it's 474. And then the 10th grade number for next year is 392. So they're expecting whatever it is, 80 kids to leave, or 80 plus? Is that typical?
Based on history, yes, and then we'll get,
Okay.
so
And
it's,
then they come back, or.
yeah, not like our 10th grade class is, right now, the biggest classes that we have are 10th and 11th. 10th right now is the biggest class we have. So, but then, okay, so some of those will leave, but then we get more.
What, how much of that is, because ninth grade is one of those grades where, you know, you see increases of kids getting held back. So how much of that is, well, it doesn't affect ninth grade, it would affect 10th grade. No, it would affect ninth grade. That just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I noticed anecdotally within, when I was a ninth grader, a significant amount of people who left just didn't fit it. Like they went and they went to their parents and like, there needs to be change. And it would be kids coming and going that way. And like I had a few friends do that. I mean, I think that might be a cause. Obviously, not the strongest evidence, but who knows?
Yeah, so right now in 10th grade, we have 461. And then junior class has 425. Okay, I can.
Can you show that on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, I don't know how to get it there. That's my challenge that I'm trying to work on because I'm not in the Zoom on my computer.
Okay.
I'm in the Zoom up there, but this is my Tara's thing.
Do you want to try Control Plus? That's usually if you're trying to get Zoom, that should open.
No, I'm saying I'm not logged into Zoom on my computer.
Oh, wait.
So it's all through Mr. Montero's, but Mr. Montero doesn't have access to our budget. So I haven't been able to
Could you send an email? Look at it.
It's 400 cells long.
Oh,
So hang on. Trying to be creative.
So where we are is just after discussing with the Go team, I'll submit the request for review for the signature program by Friday, so we'll know something next week.
So while she's trying to pull that up, is there a difference between, this is going to show us, budgeted, allocated, and staff.
I think I figured.
So is there going to be a change in the staff number?
Depends on how much, right, depends on the money that we get for the signature.
Got it.
is this change in budgeting, was this the way they budgeted, is this based on the new superintendent and from his previous district? I mean, what inspired, do you know what's inspired the change in how budgeting is done?
I think it's just, I'm gonna look at it a whole different way.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about, analyzing the signature programming, the investments in signature programming, as well as in the turnaround, and whether or not they're actually bearing fruit, so to speak. And so there's been a lot of talk about using those two things, signature programming and turnaround, try to build those sections differently, potentially this year, rather than just go with what you did last year. I think there's some skepticism on the part, it's what I hear on the administration's part about, is that investment paying off?
Why is there such a deficit?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
What was the question?
Why is there so much of a deficit?
They were robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Hmm?
They were robbing Peter to pay Paul.
743 people staff.
Okay, so this is a summary page. I was able to pull that up. So basically, it will show you the number of teachers, and this is really long, but the number of teachers that were staffed versus how many we have staffed, but it'll go, this is how many we actually have. I don't know why that's showing as difference, because that's not a difference. But you also have to remember, so for example, like it'll say 11 math teachers, but then we also have 4 math teachers that are coded under the gifted. So we actually have 15 math teachers, for example. So you have to look at it holistically when you're looking at these numbers.
It's just an example, it's not really, it's not really realistic necessarily, as Jennifer said, but.
And then, like the EIP for us is REP, we have 1 teacher, we're only technically allotted half, but we can't hire half a teacher, so. A little bit more. And I can scroll through so that you can see where the people are.
Can you explain the difference with earned, funded? Because some columns have earned.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. It's actually not showing. Okay. So earned versus funded. Earned is the best way, but basically they're putting that exact amount of money into your budget, and that's what it's for. For example, CTAE, they will tell us that, we've earned 9.25 teachers, and that's how many we need to fund. And if that's why it says must match earned. We can go above and purchase it out of our own budget, but if we've earned it, we have to at least fund that amount. Whereas funded is more a little bit more flexible, so that amount of money is in your budget, but you're able to move it around a little bit more. For example, like, our math, we have 11 teachers and then four gifted teachers who are also math, where you're able to move that around a little bit more. So that's the difference between funded and earned. Does that make sense? Okay. So the majority of the budget is is funded, I'm sorry, and you have to allocate it the best way of, aligned to our strategic budget, our strategic goals. And then there are certain positions that you have to operate within those parameters, like CTAE, our resource officers, for example, psychologists, JRTC, ESOL, special education.
CTAE is also, we don't pay for that. Right. For special ed, we're gonna we do earn another position next year, so that'll be given to us. We don't pay for that because we earn it.
So some of the ones that we've been talking about before are not things that we earn, like is the gifted, is that on here in terms of earned?
So gifted is not earned, gifted is funded. So they'll fund up to 16 teachers for gifted, but you have to allocate. You don't have to have all 16. So we have 10 coded as gifted, and then our other teachers are in different areas. And that's really a lot of it. It has to do with scheduling, because if you're coding a teacher as gifted, you have more restrictions in what they can teach. So we still have the same number of teachers. We're not like removing these 6 teachers. They're just allocated in a different area under their content instead of coded as a gifted teacher.
But to be fair though, we have more teachers than that with their gifted endorsements.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So I think when
Disseminating.
disseminating.
It's not just about their endorsement, it's what they
The content they teach.
Yes, no, I understand that part, and the restrictions on these, but as we disseminate this information, discuss it with the community, I think that's going to be something that we probably should highlight, because I know that's been a focus of Dr. Boston's for a while, try to ensure that the most teachers she can, have their gifted endorsement, even if they're not teaching, a curriculum that's, of that content. That could be good information to know, how many of our teachers have that.
Not enough.
Yeah, not enough.
We're just,
Can we get that?
the district offers gifted cert training. We have 4 that are in that right now. So that'll be good. 2 of them are foreign language world language, so that doesn't really help, but it helps in just the knowledge, but it doesn't help for coding. So, but it's good to have the knowledge. So.
But is that a number that you could distribute? Like, we have this many teachers who have their gifted endorsement.
Oh, sure.
Or that would be good information to get.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other area that you'd like me to?
Just go to the bottom, like each black band.
Okay. So we had 8 earned paraprofessionals, and we staff all 8 of those. We have a part-time media paraprofessional that supports Mr. Montero, and then 1 ISS monitor.
Yeah, I mean, this will change based on what, so I don't think we want to go through this because it's going to change based on what we get. So can we move on to the next slide? This isn't really part of the presentation, so.
It's,
The next, is there
with
more
all due-
slides with the PowerPoint?
With all due respect, based off of what the board has been saying about how they want Go Teams engaged in this and finance, we have been asked that Go Teams see this whole sheet
Okay,
as it goes down, so.
okay. If you remember from last year, we added a few positions. We added a clerk. And so added a business manager, but not full-time, not annual. So we made some changes there. We added a counselor. We are allocated 4, we added 1, it's Brantley. The only paras that we have are, well, we have, are mainly special ed paras, and we don't pay for those, the special ed paras that kind of come with it. We did hire 2 non-instructional paras this year, so we'll just determine if that's a good use of our money or not.
That's the end. Any questions about this before we go back to the presentation?
That school resource officer thing there. We earned 4, we have 3.
No, we have 4.
We have 4.
Yeah, we earned 4 and we have 4.
Got it. Okay.
One of them was coded, the name was wrong, but we have 4 school resource officers.
Okay, I was just looking at that line, trying to
Yeah,
Figure it out, yeah.
and we have 4 that come every day.
Well, one of ours is also the cluster, kind of corporal for the cluster, so I would not call that full-time, or, because that's Officer Barr, for Barr, so it's not really 4 full-time, it's 3 definitely full-time, and then depending on her duties, probably half-time.
I have a question about the schedule we talked about at the beginning of the meeting. So our next meetings are scheduled for January 27th and February 10th. Under this timeline, do we need that January 27th meeting?
That's
today.
today.
Oh my God.
No, we do not need today.
I don't know why I was thinking there were 2 meetings.
Well, and I'm thinking that I don't even need 2025 because it's not, it hasn't started off too good.
Yeah, sorry.
It's been a lot.
It has been a lot.
So are there any questions about the rationale for
And the
STEAM
request,
signature? Say it again?
and the request that, because this is what they're gonna turn in to ask for. So if you have, right now as a Go team, this is your opportunity to give feedback on this request that Dr. Bachman and her team have made. So if you have any questions about it, or need, or need more information as to why that request has been made, now is a good time to ask that.
So something that was discussed was, we had to change our signature program, fairly recently, so we're kind of behind when it comes to, getting that certification and all that. Is there any, has there been any acknowledgement of any of that?
That's probably more of a Dr. Bachman question, because I think that's through like instruction, for instruction, teaching, learning. I can't remember the name.
But we've got more work to do than other clusters who have, we're way farther down the road.
So we have to put, I didn't put this on here, but we have to put like a justification for all of those things. All of those line items that we put money requested, we have to say why. So that'll be part of our ask. Mhm.
So in interest of how tight money is, would it be crazy to roll out the signature program instead of having a one block $600,000, $550,000 charge? We can, for example, have the math teacher this year, period, maybe the year after that, or the science, the program coach, and then kind of lets us spread it out, because I feel like the main priority, if we're in the hole that much, should be spent to be saving money.
Well, this is money we're asking for. We're asking them to give us that.
Yeah, so these are already people that are currently staffed in our building. We're not asking for new people. We're asking for this budget to pay for current staff members that are in our building, just out of the signature funding instead of the general funding. So if we were to remove science or art or math from there, that is associated with a teaching block that we have scheduled right now.
So $550,000 in kind of scale.
And we have to have the signature program because of the district being a charter district.
No, it's not tied to that. They just made the decision that they wanted everybody to have a signature program, every cluster. I think they wrote it into one of the most recent, it's not update, approvals. But it is not, it's to be a charter system, you don't have to do that. It was a decision made by the district.
You're either STEM or IB.
Is there a reason not to try to add more here? I mean, is it just like is it because you said this is already more than we got last year? And I mean, is there a reason not to add like a, I don't know, signature paraprofessional or are there any more asks we can put here, I guess is what I'm asking, to help us to try to decrease our budget shortfall?
Because this is brand new, we've never done this before, and we have no idea what the decision, I don't know what the basis is going to be for approving, not approving, have no idea. We've been given nothing.
Well, yeah, should we put one for everything? I don't understand what the downside would be.
All they could do is say no.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you got two high schools who are in the situation that we are. And one is partner school. So that's complicated, so we don't get the outside funding raise that they get, so we are the high school that's in this situation, because we had to change our signature program recently. We are the one. So it's like, no, I know, I don't mean to look at you, Diane.
It's like, not me.
That was not my decision.
Well, it wasn't even a board decision. That's within the realm of administration. So, but yeah, I mean, they made us do this. I mean, they need to fund it.
I mean, I guess the only one we couldn't ask for is an IB specialist, right?
Yeah, but
And
that's
we're
right, especially.
Yeah, we're eligible for all the other positions.
So what would be the justifications, I guess, that she has to put in with the requested amount?
And what would be the strings tied to it? Like, do they have to do certain things?
It's uncharted territory.
I mean, you could say like a science teacher, Miss Koska does a lot of stuff with STEAM. And so you could, say that's her justification. She was on the STEAM team, the teacher team, that kind of thing. She's very important. I mean, that's what you would say. One of our art teacher, not one, but our art department does a great job of really trying to do some stuff cross-curricular. So, and then we'll give some examples of that.
But would you have a use for, like, I'm just going to pick one out of the list, signature program support specialist? I mean, I don't know what that person does, but.
That's Stacy Tanner right now.
Okay,
That's
you have
No, the program coach.
That's our, the first, you have
So
to,
all of
yeah.
those, we have
Yeah.
somebody in the
No,
position.
I'm just saying, like, if you asked for another one, would you have
She's
an actual
talking
use
about
for
this
it?
one right here.
Whoops. And it's just a what if.
This one right here.
Yeah, like,
Okay. It's support.
would you have some, like, if
I think the teachers are the ones that we need more of. I don't know that we need more like.
Well, I was just thinking the AP Capstone program is completely a STEAM program. I mean, it's interdisciplinary, students have to do across the curriculum, like it's part of the program.
So if you get an art teacher, it has to be an art teacher, obviously. You couldn't use funds from an art teacher on a signature program to fund a science teacher.
I think they're saying they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could put 2 science teachers. I mean, you can change that to 2 science teachers, 2 math teachers, computer science teacher. Yeah, I mean, we added those aren't the limit of, I mean, you can put anything in there that's already funded on the other budget.
But that's an interesting concept about the capstone coordinator.
Well, yeah, so that's what I was just wondering, if this is an opportunity to at least ask to try to make up for that shortfall. But yeah, maybe it's not feasible, maybe it's too much, it's a significant amount of work, I just don't know. But I would ask for the max here.
Because, like, I heard you say this, but I really want to double check. There's no reason not to ask, right? Is there more training? Do they have to go? Like, we have them.
No, it's just moving them from the other. Right.
Let me see if I understand correctly. So if we got all of that money, you're saying even if we got all that money, we're still 45K short.
Correct.
So
Actually, I
So
think
that's when we look at stuff like materials and supplies.
Right.
Licenses for things. We've already cut all the travel, no travel. We've already made some preliminary cuts for things like that.
I thought if we got all this, we'd be $700,000 short. Because you said we're getting 1.3 million less. And then if you take 1.3 minus whatever this is, 600,000, I see it's more than that.
But that's where like cutting travel, like we've already accommodated for
Oh,
those
okay.
cuts in the numbers.
Okay.
And then there's the 280 holdback.
Yeah,
You know.
like cutting field trips, like we've already figured out where that money would be coming from essentially.
I understand.
So much is in personnel, like we have to pay for substitutes. I have to pay for substitutes. So that's 180 a day for really anything. And so we've already blown that budget this year. Not to blame the teachers again for all of our problems, but yeah, I mean, that goes up too. That's a lot of money. And so it'll be even more. So we're putting much more in that because I had to take some money out of materials and supplies, transportation to cover the sub budget now. So we'll put much more. In fact, we're being told what we have to put in next year, which is 198,000 in subs.
Is that trending upward? Is it trending upward? The amount of the subs?
Another thing we'll have to pick up is once in a while you have to offer compensatory services for students in special ed who get suspended. Their totals over 10 days suspended. So the students have to be offered compensatory services if it's over 10 days in special ed. If it's over 10 days, we now will have to pay for that. We haven't had to pay for that before. We'll have to pay for that. So that's basically hiring a teacher tutor to make up for the time that the student missed.
I'm sorry, we're negative 67,000. It's not.
What did you say?
We're negative 67,000 currently. Not 45.
Is this what you might ask the foundation or one community to cover that 67?
Problem is foundation can't pay for salaries.
The foundation of PTSO covers a lot.
But that stuff is
Right,
still
but
for
this
I think that still goes with that whole
Yeah.
stuff that they're asking the district for.
Oh, it just happens.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll go for all that, all of that.
Okay.
We'll.
So
ask
with
for all
you,
that.
because I was thinking about the field trip, so with you cutting the field trips, you just put it
Right.
here, because I was thinking about, but I just saw it. Because it is STEAM based, because you want us to do STEAM field trips, so.
So that's okay, the compensatory services part of it, that's just a change in regulation.
No, it's always been the policy, it's just usually come out of a district taught, not a school-based taught.
Right. But the minimum for subs, that's a huge thing too. I mean, it's that's $200,000 out of the budget for substitutes. And that's just, again, just teachers. We don't get subs for counselors when they're out, media specialists, AP. Like Mr. Howard's out, but we're not paying for Dr. Jack. It's a short period of time, but we don't get subs for those kind of things. Right now, just paraprofessionals and teachers. I'm probably not going to do paraprofessionals next year because of the cost. That'll be over the 198,000. So what happens is we just cover the best we can with subs that are already in the building. Another thing that's being cut is for the last 4 years, we've had 2 full-time daily subs. They're not going to pay for that anymore. We will not have those 2 people anymore.
It seems like a lot of the stuff that we could already cut to save money is being cut by the board. We don't even have the option to cut it anymore. It's already gone.
Question, is the district giving us any funding to staff ISS?
I think it do some. Well, we have it in our, we have to,
Funding.
It's funded, not earned.
It's not earned, we use our money to fund that.
Mhm.
I mean, I think when they decided that everybody needs to have ISS, I thought that was a good move, but it's, here again, I think that's something the district should fund. I think that's a good ask. Because the goal there was to not have kids out of
Out of
school so
Mhm.
much. And it had been left up to schools, the schools that don't have space, have been at a disadvantage. But I think that's a decent ask.
okay. I mean, I think that's a good idea. We can just, I mean, we could probably add 2 more positions on that budget and just, if we don't get it, we don't get it.
Could we add substitutes for the field trips? Could that go on this list? Like if teachers are going on field
That's
trips,
a good idea.
teachers are taking students on STEAM field
Yeah.
trips, then if we
Students who
did,
stay here.
then students still have to stay here because they're taking different, so
Yes, we
we
add
could,
that.
could we even put in,
Yeah,
could we even put in the substitutes for AP capstone presentations? Like we have to be out of class for their individual presentations. And as our program grows, that's more.
We can look at adding that.
And then
Add
What
sub
am I-
money for STEAM related, right, field trips, in-house things.
And then what am I changing for staffing?
You could certainly add another, science and math.
Do you want to add an ELA
Mhm.
for capstone?
Okay, let's add an ELA then and, not a, let's stay away from another math. I would go science and ELA.
And the changes I'm making are not live, but I am
Right.
making everything you guys are talking. And then,
Especially since we know that the district is moving towards more capstone, and we're sort of the trendsetter for that. I think that's something that we will be leaders for other schools, and so what's happening here is going to influence.
Ms. Boyd, if you could send like a small rationale.
Yep.
of What that looks like.
Yep.
And we could show how that's an investment that pays.
Yeah.
I Making, you know, also the amount of STEM-related AP classes we offer. Could be another, we just have to write this stuff down.
Or we can put in that we earned one of the STEM AP awards from the state. So,
Mhm.
Okay, is there any more on the budget discussion?
So engineering, does that fall up underneath our signatures?
So, no, so because our CTAE teachers are
they're
earned,
earned.
so those are all paid for out of the district pot, so we don't wanna, we played with that this morning, and,
But wasn't it like 9.2?
yeah.
2.5.
Yeah.
So can we not ask for the 0.75?
Oh, the point 2 is for the work-based learning
Oh, so
person who
it's-
travels,
it's
so
not-
it's,
Okay, okay, so
percent,
it's not,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was worried about. Is that-
so we don't wanna take that out of the general.
Right,
fund.
right,
It's
right,
already
right,
earned, so
Got it,
that
got it,
money's
got it.
already provided
Yeah,
to
yeah,
us.
My mom's texted me that's an emergency. I have to go pick my little brother up from practice as well. And that was at 5 o'clock, and that is a 30-minute drive. So I gotta go.
Thank you.
all right.
I knew.
For number D, the student and teacher survey on the personal laptop policy, I'm in full support of that.
Okay,
Okay, so that brought our total ask to $881,370 for, signature funding.
Dr. Bachman, is there any help or support the Go Team can give you in writing that justification? I'm thinking maybe Tamara with her experience, or, I mean, is there any, help or support?
We can, what we'll do is Jennifer and and the other APs will work together over the next couple of days. And then we can, Tamara, if you want, we can submit kind of our justification to you, or if we need to share it with everybody, we can. And just to get any feedback before we have to turn it in Friday.
No problem. I don't have any expertise. I mean, I'm happy. I won't speak for everybody, but I'm happy for Tamara to use her expertise to provide input on that.
And I'll just share it with everybody.
Okay.
We'll share it with everybody.
Well, one of the things that, we would always hear within the district is, well, they didn't ask for such and such. We just need to ask.
What did you say is no?
Yes, that's right.
That is true.
Okay, okay, moving on to the next item. We're still in discussion. Discussion items, it's a potential steering committee, a coordination between Go Team Foundation, PTSO, and boosters. And this was something that came out of the recent Go Team Summit.
Yes, so I was in one of the sessions about, Diane was there for some of them. One of the sessions about community engagement, because that was a big factor in our priorities as we are doing this. And I
Right.
knew that, when we're talking about budget, we're gonna have to use everything. But Dr. Lovett from Ben Team gave that session. And one of the tools that he uses that he really extolled was that he has a steering committee, which is people from, and I know that like you sit on the foundation, so some of this already happens, but what he does is convene that at least once, I think he said a quarter, anyway, once a quarter, just so that all of these different entities that have, ways to contribute, towards our bottom line and just towards our workflow, are all rowing in the same direction. Like everybody knows what their role is in it. And I know that the school has a pretty good sense of what that is. It's just that our organizations don't tend to talk to each other very much. And I think that, I found that to be a really insightful suggestion that he gave to Go Team members about how he really uses that to bolster community engagement. And it was very compelling. So I just wanted to put that on the table as we discuss our priorities when we went through our strategic plan and now looking at our budget. And Dr. Bachman, of course, this is your school, but I found that discussion to be interesting. And that's something that we did do years ago at Mary Lynn, the dark ages, where we did that. We had, a group that was members of each one, so that we, A, didn't step on each other's toes, and, B, don't disparage each other, and C, that we're all, not duplicating efforts and we're, maximizing the benefit to the school. So I just wanted to bring that in for discussion.
I will say this year, the foundation, PTSO, and boosters have been meeting. So we've had joint meetings with Dr. Bachman, maybe 2 with Dr. Bachman, a few on our own. So I think this year there has been a lot more coordination between those entities, but it hasn't been a formal steering committee or quarterly or anything like that. So I think that's a good idea. This is a discussion item, so we don't need a vote. I think it's just something to think about.
Well, and then we would get the benefit of, hearing about some of these other efforts, because we're looking at the dollars, but a lot of the stuff that we have on our priority list are not necessarily dollar related.
Right.
And so hearing how all of this stuff is working together will give us other ideas potentially about how we sit as a Go Team, what we do. So I guess it would be just adding, you'd have 2 hats, but it would be just adding, that, and then having kind of like a report out, just kind of a standing report about how we're doing. Couple sentences.
That's a good idea.
Okay, the next item on the discussion is the request for the student and teacher survey on the Midtown laptop policy. I'd like to table that until after I give the information item on the empowering student voices. So we'll go to information items and then we'll come back to that. So next, the first information item is Dr. Bachman, your principal's report.
Oh, just gonna go through a few things that, but I think we were just gonna show some highlights of things that are going on, but the time frame, I'd like to just, most of these things have been, we'll just go through, we'll just show them.
Dr. Bachman, I'd just like to say I've heard rave reviews for the Formaware drive. So thank you to all the different entities that helped put that together. I think it was just a huge success.
It was.
And yeah,
One of those new things that you
do it
don't know
again.
how it's gonna,
I've heard people raving about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a lot of fun. They really enjoyed it.
The kids are.
And we're staying with the group tomorrow that decorate and get ready for the dance, and so we do have,
Yeah, we talked about this could just, not even for just a reason, but kids like to do that. They like, we could just, it doesn't have to be for something. We could have a thrift store
Thrifting.
Monthly or
week or
something.
something,
Yeah.
it was just, it was fun and they like to do that, so.
Thank you. Okay, next item, the information item. I just wanted to give a really quick update on the Empowering Student Voices presentation from the Go Team Summit. They haven't circulated the entire presentations, so I just had some screenshots. So you'll see here, there was a slide called Empowering Student Voices, Best Practices for Students and Staff, and it listed some of the different ways to empower student voices. And one of them was authentic feedback channels, which is surveys, suggestion boxes, classroom discussion to regularly gather student feedback. And then the mandate, the charge at the end of that session was to create an action plan for student involvement at your school, and for the Go Team adults, identify one action to increase student voice in decision making. And if you look on the other side, which is the spectrum of student voice that's referenced there, it talks about different ways to work with students to get to amplify student voices, and it includes students as data sources and asking students to participate in focus groups and completing surveys. So this is the background information that I wanted to provide before we go to the discussion item, which is the request for a student and teacher survey on the Midtown personal laptop policy. And I would expand that to say, and limitations of Chromebooks. So that is a formal request. So I guess I would make a motion and we can have a vote on that. So I'd like to make a motion for the Go team to do a survey on the Midtown personal laptop policy and limitations, if any, of the Chromebooks. Do I have a second for that motion?
When do we have discussion about that? After the
second.
second, okay.
If the motion is seconded, then you move on to discussion. If the motion is not seconded, then the motion dies for lack of a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so now you have discussion about the motion.
How would the Go team do a survey?
Well, I think we could prepare the survey and then the school would have to push it out. You know, it would be, I don't know if it would be through Schoology, but it's like a Google survey. I mean, the school's done surveys before. So I think the school would need to administer the survey. But as far as developing the survey questions, it could be the Go team working on the survey questions. And I, in particular, was thinking that, you know, relying heavily on our true student members to help develop the survey.
And the purpose of this survey would to just increase student voice?
Yeah, so to give students such opportunity to provide their voice on this new policy and how limitations of Chromebooks and the inability to use laptops have impacted their academic experience.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is important when talking about anything like this is this spectrum, you know, because not everything you do, you're going to be like empowering the students to make a decision. And I think it's also important for kids to know where on this spectrum such a survey would fall, right? To let them know whatever it is we're asking them for. You know, we're just getting your feedback, you know, this, you know, whatever stance you take, this is an administrative decision, you know, it's not, you know, we're taking your survey and you get to decide.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, you know, giving them that voice, you know, to, you know, because they may tell you things that you never heard.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Can we go back to this? I have a question. I mean, I just want us to think about how this is connecting back to our strategic plan. Can we go back and look at that? But that's one of the issues I think is important is how is this connecting to what our focus is for the group?
You know, once again, let me just make sure I'm actually sharing it right.
And I think it's good to have Diane here too, because, you know, always the balance is, you know, how do we fulfill our obligations to amplify student voice and to do that kind of community engagement with, you know, knowledge of what is and is not our purview. So it's always a balancing act.
So to clarify, because students can't have their personal laptops in after-school programs, we want to ask them how they feel about that.
No, it's how the limitations of Chromebooks and the inability to use personal laptops have impacted their academic experience.
Oh, because
So
when
for
they're in
example-
school, they have to use their Chromebook.
Yeah.
They can't substitute.
Yeah.
But they can't take a test on a
Correct,
personal laptop.
correct.
Okay.
But, I mean, I asked for information the other day and I said, you know, how is this impacting students? And the response was, well, all 4 people at my AP Calculus table all had examples of things that they couldn't do with their Chromebooks and things that they could do with their personal laptops that made their learning experience more difficult.
Gotcha.
So whether they couldn't access a program, they couldn't edit a certain document, they couldn't, each of them had an example of, yeah, it's harder because I can't do this. It's harder because I can't do that. And I think it's important for us to understand all of the ways that students have been impacted by it.
Could that question be, I guess, reversed? I guess, how has the absence of personal laptops impacted their performance in maybe impacted a positive way as opposed to a negative way? 'Cause-
Absolutely. That's why the survey has to be, it's not, the question isn't how has the laptop policy impacted you negatively?
Mhm.
It's how has the laptop policy impacted
Oh,
you?
I guess that's the vibe I got from this.
One of the things that worries me just is our priority on welcoming inclusive school culture, because personal laptops is a wealth issue. And then we will have students who then would be disadvantaged because they wouldn't have those things. So that's one of the things, as a teacher who is constantly kind of thinking about equity in our classrooms, I think that's one of the things that worries me. Is it becoming sort of this divide between the haves and the have-nots?
Well, one of the things, that's a valid point. One of the things I think we need to keep in mind when talking about a survey is we're not necessarily thinking, like predetermining what would be done with the information.
Right.
Right? Because let's say, we're not in control of that. But let's say it provides you with a really good list of feedback to give back to APS about what's hindering them about, the governors that are on the.
Is that the actual motive? I mean, is that to give the APS the feedback?
I don't think there's a motive.
Yeah, it's to gather data and,
I mean, people gather
experience.
data for particular reasons for the most part.
well,
not
I
just
think
net-
it's to identify needs. And is the need, to request more robust computers from APS? Is the need to request the foundation to buy things? I mean, I'll give another example. I know that the foundation purchased iPads a number of years ago, and the iPads have been used for various things. Well, they're old, and they don't have the same capability as current iPads. So journalism students weren't able to import their graphics onto this school iPads. They used a school iPad to film videos for Spanish, but the audio was so bad that you couldn't hear the video, and a student had to transcribe all of the dialogue. So it took 4 or 5 hours to transcribe dialogue because the video was shot on a substandard technology. So there was a policy implemented this year that was a significant change, and students haven't been asked how it impacted them, whether it's good or bad.
Gotcha.
So that is the purpose. And I apologize, I'm not able to get on the Wi-Fi, but I had sent an email showing how I thought this survey was tied to our strategic priorities. And I'm sorry, I'm having some,
Well, we don't,
the theme is our technical difficulties.
I'm going to say something. So as you all know, with the PED policy that we put into place, we did a lot of research, a lot of surveying, a lot of data gathering. That continues. There's a plan for lots of data gathering after the year. When we approach the end of the year, one of the biggest things last year was the teachers listing what their 3 top hindrances were for teaching. And so it was, of course, kids on all kinds of personal devices, the cheating, those kind of things. But there is a plan for all of this. So I don't know that we need to have a separate survey when we already have data gathering all the way from failure rates to all kinds of things. So I just want to throw that out. I don't know that we need to have another one when we already have a plan for gathering information and data.
I guess I haven't seen a plan or process to date for empowering student voices on this issue. So this is, a specific survey, which, is identified as, best practices by both in the Go Team Summit and the Spectrum of Student Voices to gather information. And I guess I can't see why we wouldn't gather
But
information
Jennifer,
to see how students,
we're gathering the information.
not from students.
We will. I'm saying it's part of the process of this year, rolling it out. We will survey teachers, parents, and students. As I said, that is the plan. We've done everything so methodically
Yeah, as we did
in the past
before.
year.
And I think it'll be best to do it at the end of the year so that they can think of their whole year without a PED and then as they get their grades back, AP test scores back and all of that stuff milestones to actually think, okay, did me not having my personal device have an effect over my overall year in school? And because I think, a lot of the kids are complaining because that's what they want. They just want it. And I think as teachers, we try our best to ensure that the things that we give them is able to access on their on their Chromebooks, instead of giving them something that they can't use their Chromebooks for. As well as it's a big cheating thing. It's a real big cheating thing. And I think having everybody on the same playing field without others having, because see, last year my issue was I can monitor you on your Chromebook, but you're on your Mac and you can do whatever you want.
Text messages. I mean,
I understand these are all the teachers' perspectives, but it's still not.
But I think it's
enabling
best
student
after
voices.
the year has gone by so they can reflect on, okay, this entire school year, I did not have any of my personal devices. How did this affect me? And especially comparing it to the previous year to say, okay, these were my scores and my grades this year. Last year, now this year, this is what I received. Did this have an impact? Did I do better? Did I do worse? Was I stagnant? What changed? And could I say that was because of PED?
So thank you for those perspectives. Some of it for me is, I came on the Go Team after the beginning of the year. So some of it could be just communication that I missed. So if that was always the plan to have, to get that student input at the end of the year, I just came in late. And I think, letting the kids know, letting people know that this is part of the data research, that we do intend to get your feedback. And it will be in a form that's, representative and open. Because I hadn't heard that was the intention, to collect that student feedback. So,
Yeah, I hadn't heard that either. And, we talked about this for the first time in October. I'm also curious, just logistically, administering a survey over the summer seems like that might be, it might be difficult. One of the
It has
things
to
that
be
they
over the
talked
summer.
about.
It's in May. I think that's what Mrs. Oak
During
was saying, was not
finals,
that over
Or
the
even
summer.
after they test, or even during that time period in May, they can still kind of understand how they're feeling about what's going on. Because most of the time by May, they know if they're going to pass or fail or where they're going to fall. But I've seen, my last year here, I have seen during the end of the year, surveys goes out to the students, they fulfill them. So that's what I'm thinking would be a good idea, instead of like right now, so they can kind of analyze what's going on or what's really affecting their learning.
so if we go back to the motion, so we have an item that's open. So okay, do we have to change anything? If this is the case and we're documenting that, there will be a student survey. Do we have to change anything about the motion? Or is there more discussion on?
I mean, the motion is to have a student and teacher survey on the Midtown personal laptop policy. And I guess what I've heard is that's going to happen.
Yeah, and it won't just be personal laptop, it'll be
Yeah, it'll be,
PD in
period.
general. It'll be a.
Well, that's the problem. I think the lines have been blurred.
Well,
you know.
it'll be both. I mean, we'll talk
How-
about
how
separate
it is,
things.
But the data, the surveys that were done last spring really focused on cell phones and how will not having your cell phone impact you. And I've seen the impacts be different.
Mhm.
The students weren't using their cell phones to perform schoolwork. Although they could have filmed those Spanish videos on their phones and been in a lot better shape. But that's the problem. If the survey goes out, how did the PED policy impact you? How did it impact you not having your cell phone? That is different than understanding how the technological limitations of Chromebooks and the inability to be able to access a personal laptop have impacted the academic experience of the
You know,
kids.
we can
Right,
make
and
those
that's-
distinctions in the
But
survey.
we
Yeah.
defined it too as PED was any personal, and they even stated cell phones, laptops, watches, AirPods,
You
so
want
it
the
was
distinction.
defined there.
You want the distinction to be made within the survey, correct?
Correct.
So that we have separate data.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
May I
when we do
make-
the survey, we'll just,
Absolutely.
Can I make a friendly amendment to your motion then?
Yeah.
Yeah, would it be possible, I would motion that, there be some feedback from the Go team given to some of the survey questions that will be administered to students.
yeah, I don't know, Jay, I'm fine with that. I mean,
Sure.
I mean,
And
not
ask the
that-
foundation also, because they paid for the majority of PTSO, also paid a huge amount, so we'll ask all those
I mean, I
entities.
think
If
that-
that's, I don't want to ask just one entity if
Right.
Of course.
everybody was involved in
Yeah,
it.
I think that steering committee that you were talking about, I think that's a good idea for that, to get feedback from that group.
On what the questions are,
Mhm.
so that we.
Yeah.
Because, they're all
Yeah.
parents and it's effective. in
And
different
certainly
ways.
our students on the Go team.
Sure.
So, what is my motion? But we all,
So motion for Go Team Foundation and PTSO to provide feedback on student and teacher
Survey questions.
survey.
And
So
parents.
are we changing the
parents.
motion that's on the table?
yes, I
I will
changed her
withdraw
motion.
that motion.
Yeah.
I will withdraw my motion. So the new motion is the motion for the Go Team Foundation and PTSO to provide feedback on
Potential questions for that survey.
potential questions for student survey.
Well, it's students, parents, teachers,
Yeah.
all the
Right.
above.
Yeah, I
right?
think, yeah.
And teacher survey on. I don't want to say just PED policy.
Right, I would say,
I mean, you can say that.
I mean, because
and-
it includes
it'll
all
be-
of it.
But it
But
would
we
be
need
just,
to break it out.
how
Right,
about
in the
PD
survey, it will be
policy
broken
with
out.
broken down questions about each specific element.
Questions on cell phone versus
right.
Ask about the laptop.
laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
An iPad could be part of the computer.
Because it said, I think, in one of the documents they gave us, it did identify that cell phones, laptops, iPads.
Well, and the great thing is, again, that this could give us a wealth of information to go back to the district and say, hey, you might think about this feedback that we're getting from teachers and
Right.
about their Chromebooks,
Yeah.
right? So what they've,
Absolutely.
what they've done to throttle them.
Okay, so I'm going to reread it. Motion for Go Team Foundation and PTSO to provide feedback on potential questions for student, parent, and teacher survey on PED policy with specific questions on cell phones versus personal computers.
Is that now my motion? So you just restated my motion. So that's my motion. So I
We'll also
moved.
involve the Student Mental Health Advisory Board.
yeah.
I mean,
That's a good group.
I think that's getting
can't-
really wordy and that's,
But we
I
as
mean,
a Go team can't bring in all those numbers.
No, so here's something to remember. You guys are the governing board for the school. You have constituencies that you represent. Just like the school board, sometimes they will reach out to their constituencies to ask. It's not necessarily your job to have a motion that includes all of these people. To have a motion that says that the Go team
Yeah.
would like to review the surveys and, because, again, you're the steering board for the school. Everybody else that's in follows your strategic plan, should be supporting your strategic plan. So if you guys don't feel that you have the representation you need at the table, then you can reach out to the other organizations, but I don't know that you have to
Yeah.
state that.
Listen.
That's a good
That
point, because
motion.
we can't control, like, we don't organize them.
Right.
So I go back to my original motion, which is just to,
well,
just
and-
that the Go team will provide feedback,
Yeah.
and knowing that the administration is going to seek the feedback from
And
those
the-
other
and the-
yeah,
people.
I mean, we'd also involve the research and evaluation department to make sure survey is the way it's supposed to be. I mean, I don't think we're all survey experts.
I don't
I'm
think,
not,
I'm
so,
not asking for us to, like, approve. That's not.
Right.
That's
But
not
feedback.
within our, it's just to provide some suggestions, that's all,
Correct. That's-
when it comes to that. So that is the motion.
Okay, okay, so now,
It goes, like. you-
motion for Go team to review and provide feedback on student, parent, and teacher survey on Midtown's PED policy with
And I think
specific questions
That's it.
on,
That will be our feedback.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it should just be the laptop part. We've already had feedback on the cell phone part.
From students, right?
Not at the end of the year, Graham, not for what we're trying to.
Not
collect.
just overall. Because we already have a survey. Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is motion for Go team to review and provide feedback on student, parent, and teacher survey on Midtown policy. Midtown PED policy.
Perfect.
Yeah, not understanding that we don't have approval authority
Right.
over that.
Okay, I second.
Any more discussion? I'm not in charge of it.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Okay. 7 in favor. All those opposed, raise your hand. All those abstaining, raise your hand. Okay, so it's 7 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Okay, so the final item on our agenda before the last public comment session is the CAT report.
Yep, this will be really quick. So the cluster advisory team met November, I believe it was. And like I told you guys, we decided to, because this cluster strategic plan is also heavily devoted to community engagement. So we created a committee about community engagement. And that one is, we have a couple of chairs, one of which is the principal at Mary Lynn, the advisor, the principal advisor. They have identified some topics. They've already had their first engagement session around testing and assessment, which they're working in tandem with the district task force about testing and assessment. They had a survey. The survey is now closed. They're presenting all the data to the task force for them. And it's just, there's no sort of evaluation of the data collected, no recommended advice. It's just, we're just passing along, the information to the task force so that they can do what they do, because we've already had something established like that. We did not have any feedback from students. And so I don't, that would be something, for the task force to bring up at this point, is how do you get student voice, when it comes to that. So I don't know how many students on their own filled out the survey, but I'll get a report for them. But, yeah, we have another meeting in February. So they're very fast meetings and there's not a lot of time to get work done. So that's why we started doing committees, because by the time you do your joint session with all the other clusters and then have your breakout thing for 15, 20 minutes, you just keep getting work done.
Yes.
So,
Okay, we have our second public comment session. Is there anyone? Okay, no one on YouTube or Zoom or Teams, whatever we're on. So last thing we're going to is announcements. Just a reminder for all Go team members to complete their budget training on Ellis. And we've reached the end of our agenda. Are there any additional business items?
I'd like to remind everybody that declarations are open for Go Team elections.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Tamara. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. Abstentions? None. Our meeting is adjourned at 5:45. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Yes, 5:45.
We almost got the 90 minutes.
Russ, I was thinking about, tomorrow morning meeting. Looking at the agenda.
Oh my God. I have so much formal wear, like, I can't wait for this next drive.
Okay.
You know, all the stuff I collected over time.
We definitely need to do a really big one for the prom.
Well,
Multiple, yeah.
Several years.
Yeah.
and my oldest, like, she
But I think
graduated.
it's, but I think by calling it thrifting,
Oh, they love
it changes the kids'
Yeah.
perspective on it. Because they love thrifting so
Yeah.
much.
My oldest
Some of my
graduated.
kids were asking the other day, well, do you know when ThriftCon is?